Going live in 3.
I said I wonder, the flag above you, is it the same one you think you wonder? I said I wonder, is someone taking over under the golden dome?
All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam A.K. Marf. Let's get right into it. So this might very well be propaganda. It's coming out of the New York Times, and it's, of course, also being covered by multiple other media streams. And again, when you see the same message across the board, usually, I wish we had like Pee Wee Herman had the mailman, but we would have like psyops. Again, this is something where if you see the message that is exactly the same across the board, usually it's something like that. But again, I do believe that China has hacked into Russia, just like the U.S. hacks into France and Europe and all of these European nations. Heck, the whole country or the whole world went after the U.S. back in 2012 when Edward Snowden came out and basically blew the whistle that the U.S. was watching everybody's cell phones. Even the French president, had somebody watching him take a dump. I mean, this was pretty bad, again, with China unleashing hackers against its friend Russia. Is this to separate them and to make them feud right now? Is this a part of the propaganda? It says, since the war in Ukraine began, analysts have monitored a series of intrusions aimed at stealing information about weaponry and warfighting. Again, since the beginning of the conflict in Ukraine, groups linked to the Chinese government have repeatedly hacked Russian companies and government agencies in an apparent search for military secrets, according to cyber analysts. Again, the intrusion started accelerating in May 2022, just months after Moscow's full-scale invasion, and they have continued steadily. How do we know that this is not just, connections and they're actually in there? How are these cyber analysts looking at this and saying, hey, they're stealing information? What if they're giving them information? What if they're, helping in this conflict and all they're seeing is encoded stuff on the back end going back and forth? I don't know. Something about this just sits wrong. I do believe China is trying to do exactly what the U.S. does, which is know everything about everyone. But at the same time, the timing of this couldn't be more suspicious. It says the hacking campaign shows that despite this partnership, years of promises not to hack each other, China sees Russia as a vulnerable target. In 2023, one group known as Sanyo impersonated the email addresses of major Russian engineering firm in the hunt for information on nuclear submarines, according to Team T5, a Taiwan-based cybersecurity research firm that discovered the attack last year and linked it to the Chinese government. So, also look at the source. It is saying that it was discovered by a Taiwan-based cybersecurity research firm. Taiwan, the same Taiwan that China is about to take over, and that they're at threat of essentially invading. China is far wealthier than Russia and has plenty of homegrown scientific and military expertise, but Chinese military experts often lament that Chinese troops lack battlefield experience. Experts say that China sees the war in Ukraine as a chance to collect information about modern warfare tactics, Western weaponry, and what works against them. So understand this too. From that angle, you're looking at this and going, they are trying to get information about how to defeat us from Russia. And again, this isn't just Russia fighting Ukraine. This is Russia fighting all of our Western gear, all of our actual offenses and defenses. That is what Russia is fighting. In fact, whatever was originally only Ukraine's probably got destroyed in the first 3 months. After that, it was all gifted by the U.S. or by NATO. So very, very, very creepy that they are even hacking over there. And I bet you it's to find out how to defeat us. Who knows? But one question is, why do they need to hack? Why can't they be like, hey, Putin, let's have a buddy time. Let's go on Skype and watch, Netflix and kill. I don't know. We'll talk about it in just a moment. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, let's get into it. Tonight is going to be a good show because later on in the show, I'm going to do a quick survey of you guys because we have a lot going on in the world. A lot of folks are talking about nukes. And I do have some genuine questions for some detractors of what history has shown, right? So I'm going to ask you guys some questions later that I think that we're going to have a pretty good debate here at the very end. But first, we have a lot to go over in a short amount of time. So let's bring in my co-internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
All right, so let's go into the next piece, which is U.S. will strike North Korea if South attacked with nukes. South spy chief nominee says, wow, this kind of came out of left field, and it's involving North Korea.
Certainly. So South Korea's nominee for the spy agency director said on Thursday he believed the United States would strike North Korea with nuclear weapons if Pyongyang launched a nuclear attack against South Korea. Lee Jong-seok made the comment during a nomination hearing in an answer to a question if he believed Washington would strike the North and put Americans at risk from a country, even if Pyongyang had deployed intercontinental ballistic missiles. And his exact quote was, yes, that is my belief, after saying the hypothetical scenario of South Korea coming under a North nuclear attack and directly related to the security alliance between the two countries. So he is basically saying that it's his belief and his understanding that the U.S. will strike back with nukes against North Korea if North Korea launches nukes on South Korea.
By the way, this picture that they have here, Dex, did you ever watch Severance on Apple TV? Did you ever see that?
Yeah, I've
show?
seen some of it.
So the second season really dips into the kind of a Illuminati kind of stuff, and they show this young Asian girl, which you assume is an older character that is now cloned and is a young character. I just think about how all of these pictures, and we've shown these in almost every article. Kim Jong-un has now his daughter with him in almost every picture. I've had all sorts of theories from, after his brain surgery where they actually declared, the world media declared that he may actually have perished. Then they said he had a stroke and he was a vegetable. Then they just basically said, nah, he's good. And then his sister started talking for him. Where is his sister in all of these pictures? Do you guys get my drift here? Like, why is the sister not? And then all of a sudden there's this, the young daughter who didn't exist before she was about 12, and now she's totally involved. It's like he's thinking about having her replace him or something. Where is the sister? And then the kind of regular people that are always right behind him. I'm actually surprised there's at least 2 people on their phones. It makes me think, like, would Kim Jong-un let these guys be sitting there on their phones? That almost made me think, like, gosh, is this AI? They've got a bunch of missiles here and then just some random pictures like that. Yeah, it doesn't make too much sense. Anyways, but as far as Kim Jong-un, I've talked about this. I believe that they were going to be the trigger to be the trigger that actually pulls the bigger weapon of World War III out, right? And then the Middle East happened, and I was thinking, oh gosh, maybe I'm wrong. But they keep going back to North Korea. They keep putting this out here. And again, North Korea now just launched more than a dozen rockets. If you didn't follow the whole North Korean president thing getting ousted, and now the new president is saying, oh yeah, we promise we're going to, renew ties with North Korea. After the ex-president gets pulled out because he declared martial law and said China is infiltrating and trying to help North Korea get into our country. Now all of a sudden you've got troops massing on their border, and then of course you have them launching more than a dozen rockets. It's like they never go away. They just keep popping up. It just super, super odd that how they just pop in at the craziest time. Now, yesterday we covered North Korea too, because they are sending 6,000 more troops into Russia, into Kursk. So they are staying a part of this. And that also shows you all these treaties that were tied in. Russia signed a treaty with North Korea. What's going to happen when North and South go to war? Is Russia going to jump in on that? Well, I think it's a guaranteed. Just like every previous war, including the Korean War, where you had Russia on their side pushing down, and you had the U.S. and others pushing up with South Korea. And after the full thing, after they pushed back and almost took all of the Korea, and then they pushed down and took all of the Korea, they settled at that halfway mark, and they put the demilitarized zone, and they just basically said pause. They never ended that war. So yeah, I believe Russia is going to pop back in, and I believe now it's modern day times. Now they have a new treaty that reflects their new goals, and now they're working it out. The fact that they're giving so many troops, it says to me that Kim Jong-un or whoever's really running the country, or China, is saying, hey, we're going to give you a ton of troops, we're going to give you all of this. But in about a year, we're going to go to war with, South Korea, and we're going to need your help. And Russia's saying, yeah, we got you. So does Iran. So does Venezuela. So does Cuba. We're all in this together, buddies. And then they melt their marshmallows and they go about their camping trip. So again, very, 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 very odd that they just keep popping up no matter what. But yeah, they launched at least a dozen missiles. The rockets were launched about 10 a.m. local time from the Sangwon area of North Korea's capital, Pyongyang. The ministry said, adding that the details are being analyzed by the Korean and U.S. intelligence authorities. So they don't have the full details. Our military maintains the ability to posture and respond overwhelmingly to any provocation while paying attention to various trends in North Korea under a strong joint defense posture between Korea and the United States, so that the North Korea does not misjudge in the current security situation. This looks like they had AI write this damn statement. Maintains the ability to posture to respond overwhelmingly to any provocation while paying attention to various trends in North Korea under strong joint defense posture. They use posture twice. Between Korea and the United States, so that North Korea does not misjudge the current security situation. Wow, that's a run-on sentence if you ever saw one. But yeah, what the hell's going on? Now, before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. If you haven't already, this is an incredible, incredible device. It's going to protect you and get you home to your family after an EMP strike or an electromagnetic pulse strike. Again, go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. That same device, again, will not only protect you against EMP, but it will also protect you against a Carrington-level event from the sun. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. Thank you, Ralph Friedens Bufferwater. I thank you. Thank you for your support, and thank you for supporting Independent. Or I believe, thank you for the £2 from Europe. All right, and then Snow Leo, I just want to say thank you this week. Scott Jam, thank you. And then Jane from Tennessee, thank you. I appreciate the super sticker. Thank you. And then let's see here. We have Ilea, thank you this week. Steel Hauling DC, Alex Galagos, Craig Alicious, Sweatnam Ministries. Hopefully you're doing well. I hope you are awesome right now. And then All Things Random, of course, Devin Backus, Anthony Mann, Colby Wilson, and of course, Bound by Mountains, K Wildman, and so many more. Poppy Bjorn, Carlton Sutton, and this year, just a lot of great people have been popping in. All right. And then let's move on to the next piece. We have the Jacked Gorilla, the Gorilla, the general that, again, across the board, you're seeing all of the media talk about this general and saying that Israel, that this is the favorite for Israel because he is not only a hawk for war, but he is also, this war hero that is just absolutely getting everybody's attention because everybody's like, yeah, this is a dude. This is a masculine man. That's literally how they're portraying it, that he's a jacked gorilla, and that because he's so manly and he literally did a judo roll in combat, had 3 bullets, including one that snapped his femur in half, that this guy, literally did a judo roll after he gets taken out and snapped his femur in half, takes out a bunch of guys and says, come on. I mean, they literally portray that, they say that witnesses say this guy literally was that dude, right? And they're saying because of that, people like Pete Hegseth are looking at him and going, yeah, this dude's the guy. We're listening to this guy. He's a badass. What I've seen in the 5 different articles about this, and they all make Pete Hegseth look like he's just a beer drinking bro that's like, dude, he snapped his femur in half and he did a judo roll into a freaking secret agent move, man. And they're making it look like they just, because of his coolness and his jacked body, that they're essentially, believing every word he says and they're leaning towards him. And they're also pointing out in all of these, it's a complete contradiction to how our military was being run. Obviously, you guys have seen the TikTok videos. You've seen the makeup videos, not young women, but other makeup videos that are being done on base. Obviously, it's a big change from what we grew up with, right? So you have a complete kind of 180 in the military, and you have a ton of firings, which they keep calling him out in Congress for. Pete Hegseth keeps getting grilled about all these firings. Well, a lot of these firings, personally, I agreed with a lot of the ones I saw. And I would say it's kind of hypocritical because over the last 4 years, we actually did a whole video on the people that got fired purely for their what looks like political views, and nothing, no signs of trouble, no grievances, no anything. And these people essentially were fired because of a loss of confidence. This was, again, what was going on in the last 4 years. Now, much less got fired in this small period of time. And these people all did have grievances, that had complaints, that had issues. At least most of the ones that I looked into, the names that they were quoting in the Congress hearings. So yeah, this is the Jack Gorilla. Dex, when you saw this, did you kind of think the same thing? Like they're making this guy out like he's the masculine thing. I do see the other point though. He is all about, going to war.
Well, I took it more like, they gave the pretty, macho experience up front in the story to put him on a pedestal, but then they just tear it down by saying all he's doing is circumventing the leadership at the DOD. He goes straight to the president. He's the one getting anything and everything he asks for in Iran or in Israel against Iran. But even to the other people in the DOD that are sort of like not wanting to do that he just circumvents them and goes. He has had more time with the president than any other general, etc. So it's like there's this hit piece on him, which is, of course, let's call him a gorilla, which his name is Kurilla, and his nickname of being Jack Gorilla, I think, is his actual nickname. I don't think they're making that up to be derogatory, but they're certainly jumping on it to use it if they can. And his past accomplishments shouldn't be considered bad either, because that's pretty damn amazing to, continue in combat, continue giving orders, continue taking out the bad guys when you've been hit and had your femur broken in half, and you just continue. He got awarded a medal for that. So that was back in Iraq, I believe. So yeah, none of that stuff should be dismissed or treated without any of the respect that it should be given.
No,
but I certainly think that the media is certainly out to get him. They're like trying to paint him as the bad guy right now because he's got so much Trump time, if you want to call it that, and he's getting what he wants when it comes to getting military gear and equipment for Israel.
And also because you have all of the younger crowd that's absolutely, just they're set in one way. And the thing is I don't mind if somebody has an opinion that is formed because they are thoroughly, into this and really looking into it, and their brain has formed their own opinion. What bothers me is so many people's opinions are based on other people's opinions, and they haven't actually bothered to look at themselves. So they keep mentioning like, oh, they've mentioned other articles in other countries. They're saying, yeah, this Israel paper says, yeah, this is the guy we can't go to war without. They're basically, if you attach them and say that they're Israel's favorite, it's the same logic that Canada just used in their selection of the president, right? It's like, oh, make this candidate look like he's a version of Donald, right? And then everybody go, oh, he's the Donald of Canada. We don't want him. And they're doing this thing where if they attach it to the thing that you don't like, then they're like, oh, if he's attached to that, then I don't like this guy. People are so dumb now that they just go, oh, well, if he's a friend of Donald's, then I don't agree with anything this guy says. And even if it's illogical, I'm just going to say I hate this person. The quote here, it says, he's a big dude, he's jacked. And I think Gorilla is his nickname. The jacked part is what I think that they added that. Jacked Gorilla doesn't really, that's just sounds so 90s. But the gorilla, I mean, that's kind of a badass name. It says,
yeah, you're right. They say his nickname is just the Gorilla.
Yeah. But they're calling him jacked, right? Jacked is an insult nowadays. Did you know that? So when I literally said this in front of my 19-year-old, I said, dude, that dude's jacked. And then somebody, our other buddy said, oh, yeah, that guy's yoked. And he goes, jacked? Ugh, gross. Oh, he's a big muscle man. Oh, he's so masculine. And it's like a bad thing now. Again, I didn't raise her. The public school system did. But, when you see this and you go, he's a big dude, he's jacked, he's exactly this lethality look, right? What kind of look do you want for your military? Do you want like a soft puppy look? Like, when you go up against us, we're going to rub up on your leg and ask for more kitty treats, What do you want for your military? Do you want it to be like, hey, we're going to give you a harsh warning, and you better have your hall pass, guys, because we're going to come and give you a timed outage. We're going to do, calm parenting with you guys, okay? And it's again saying that Donald and Mr. Hegseth, this is the look they're going for. If the senior military guys come across as tough and war fighters, Hegseth is easily persuaded to their point of view. Do you see that they say he's made like an idiot? Oh, he's big and he's bad. And the guy is literally a badass. And witnesses literally have him doing a judo roll across a way, dodging bullets, hit bullets. He's bleeding out, and he's still trying to save people. This guy's a freaking war hero. So maybe he does know a thing or two about it. Just saying. But people are so bland to just go and look at all of these opinions. It's across the board. When you see the same message, the same writing, like you could see, he's a big dude, he's jacked, he's exactly this lethality, in like 8 different things. When you see the same script across 5 different things, and it's not just syndication where they're just taking the exact same thing and printing it in another paper and saying, this is Yahoo News, but this is from New York Times. When you see that, that is usually a psyop. That's usually Ganda. It's easy to spot. But yeah, as far as this goes, when they do this to people, it's frustrating. I don't know. And I'll tell you my honest opinion. I'm starting to lean towards take this damn Iran dude out. And I understand, and I've seen it both ways. And I've said, I don't want war, don't want any of this. But yeah, I'm starting to lean towards just take them out. Not Israel, but taking the Iranian supreme leader out. And then Trump will decide on potential Iran action within the next 2 weeks. So this is something, again, this is a very scary thing. Trump will decide on basically what happens. He's giving them 14 days to figure it out. Otherwise, there's going to be another red line. And at that 14 days, he's already said, you had 60 days. Essentially, then all of this started, which almost seems like, he was in on that. And now they've shown them what Israel and the U.S. can do, because they say that they are helping control. They are knocking out offensive missiles with their defensive systems. And they say that we have control over their airspace. So did we just show them what we could do? And now they're like, hey, the next move's yours. We've got you in check. It doesn't look like it's checkmate. Dex, what do you think? I mean, the 14-day kind of deadline.
How about, so look, the fact that Trump is saying it today, I'm going to take, 14 days. He was saying it to Netanyahu on the phone like yesterday or the day before, right? So he knew. But how about the timing? How about the timing that it comes out today that he's going to wait 2 weeks, but at the same time, it comes out today that hospital was struck, and now, even some in Israel saying that the U.S. will decide within 24 hours what they're going to do because things have changed now because of the hospital, right? So the timing is just, you got to look at the timing of all these things, and it just makes you sort of ask the questions like, is it just coincidence that, Trump on one hand is trying to delay 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden you've got this hospital incident that sort of potentially could change that or not? I don't know. You decide.
And we see the same kind of things being said over and over and over again. Russia is saying that there's so many keywords they use: irreparable damage, irreversible consequences. If the U.S. joins in, the U.S. has joined in. We've proven that. The president said we control the sky. Anytime that we talked about any place where they were going to shut down the sky for, or to be able to control the sky over a place, essentially enforce anything, like if a jet goes over and we're there, or we, are controlling the sky, that means the U.S. is controlling the sky. And that's a big deal. That was going to cause a World War III, 3 years ago. If we shut down certain airspace and said, hey, no fly zone, that was a big deal. That was a big enough deal for war. Now it's happened. We have joined. I don't even understand why people are still debating if we've joined or not. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your opinions on it. Ilea says, did you see your new profile pic I made for you? I texted it to you earlier. It's a keeper. No, I have not yet. So I will see that, and I will try to change it if I can. Ilea, thank you. And I appreciate the support. Thank you for supporting Independent. By the way, there are also lots of other great people in the chat. Let's see here. We've got Wharton Fissel, Jennifer Chamberlain, The Highway, Ty Vovo. Thank you, members. Kathy Paena, J-Pass, Tammy Lee. Thank you, Jenny Lee Deemers. We've got The Godhead, Rashid, Paula Carrell. It's Bowl, says Paula. Fort William, Texas. Nah, by this weekend. Well, after that hospital, and do you notice how the hospital is getting full 360 coverage? Usually that kind of thing, it's very fast after something like that. And let love win. War with Russia will likely be the result if we do. It's not just Russia. It's Russia and China. Sorry. It's Russia and China. This all goes back to China. If you look, all of the, if we were to have one of those mapped boards like the investigators do with the strings and the thumbtacks, all strings would connect back to China. All of them. Every last one of them. Heck, we just covered yesterday that China is flying in supplies into Iran as all of this is going down. I am watching idiocracy unfold before me. Rashid, yeah. I mean, look, everybody's wearing Crocs. Again, funny enough, they jokingly in Idiocracy said, we need future shoes that are so ridiculous. And Crocs was a startup at the time. And the costume people didn't have much money. They said, well, we've got this one shoe that's just completely stupid. Nobody's going to wear these damn things. But it's a startup. And Mike Judge said, what if in a couple of years these things are actually popular? Well, look at around you. Look at how many Crocs are floating around. And we have wrestlers as governors and all sorts of stuff is going on. So yeah, we are living Idiocracy. If you haven't seen that movie, it's fire. And then hating on my Crocs again. Vanessa, I'm not hating on your Crocs. I told you guys I wanted some for Christmas. But we'll go into that later. never. And then we have Trump caution on Iran strike linked to doubts over bunker buster bomb. We talked about this yesterday, Dex. So I even had a question. 180 feet, this thing can get dropped from a B-2, go down into it. What are the doubts, though? What are their doubts are different?
Well, no, the doubts are that it's not been tested in this type of an environment. This type of environment is in a mountainside. This is a bunker buster. It's meant to go into the ground. It wasn't necessarily designed to go through a mountain. They don't know how far it will go. They don't know if it will take more than one. And he's questioned if, I think at the minimum, they think it will be somewhat successful. It will go into the ground and it will cause a massive explosion in that mountainside, and it'll probably seal off the entrances and cause tunnel collapses, but it may not actually destroy the facility, and it might just delay them a year and a half to get it back up and running again while they clean up the mess and get back in there. As opposed to if it is guaranteed to work and make it all the way in and then take out the complete facility, then they'll know that they'll have nothing to work with. The other speculation that others have said is that it actually would not, that the bunker buster would only open it up a little bit, and they might have to actually put a tactical nuclear weapon in there to actually get it to strike deep enough and penetrate deep enough with the explosion to cause the damage. But then, what that seems a little crazy, because when you think about it, a tactical nuke, or any nuke for that matter, you want to, there's different altitudes in which you explode them based on the type of damage you want. And if you want the surrounding area to be have it be habitable later. And so if you ground burst it, in this case, it would definitely be ground burst, because if you put a tactical into a mountain, you're going pretty deep into it, unless it's deep enough that it doesn't come out. But you're going to basically create a whole bunch of particle radiation that's attached to, things like dirt, dust, and rocks that get blasted all over the place and will lay on the ground forever and be forever, radiated. As opposed to, say, airburst, which is what you would do with a tactical nuke. You take a tactical nuke and airburst it above, say, a large group of infantry or a large area of ships, and that blast in the sky would still cause the effect. It would still cause the effect that you want without necessarily creating as much radiation, because the radiation would be in the air, and it would then dissipate over time, and the place would be livable shortly thereafter.
You guys... I like how you just fit that in there. So before the show, me and Dex were going back and forth about, this was earlier this afternoon, about, so there's a lot of people in the audience even. I want to ask you guys, and I didn't say I believed all of this, but there has always been, anytime we talk about nuclear anything, there is a small percentage of people that believe that, well, they don't believe in it at all. They think that nukes are fake. Now, I actually listened to somebody who does not believe that nuclear weapons are fake, but what they do believe is that back then, for Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that just like how a lot of people think that the moon landing was faked potentially, right? In my opinion, I actually do think it was, and it was a race thing. It was to get to the moon first before Russia. So they taped it, they made it look real, they, essentially they won the race, right? But as far as they believe that Hiroshima and Nagasaki, their theory, which they actually even came up with the actual spot where they said it went off, both spots on both maps had a spot right by a river. And their theory that it was the same kind of stuff that went off in Beirut. What is that called, Dex? The sodium, what is it called? Sodium, not sodium.
Nitrate or something?
Ammonium nitrate. They believe that a barge went down with ammonium nitrate, and both of them just went boom. For the radiation, that they did release radiation, that the radiation, was a real thing, but they manually released it in smaller areas all around it, and that the ammonium nitrate is what, caused this big boom, boom, boom. Now, that sounds absolutely crazy, but the more, so every last thing that I've wholeheartedly believed, and then I hear some arguments for it, I'm not sold on it. But the one thing is within 2 or 3, 4 months, people were living in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Now, mind you, those were small bombs. Those were some of the smallest atom bombs they had. But as far as the argument for it, there's actually there's arguments. The claims of fake nukes, lack of evidence. These claims typically rely on speculation. Questioning of lack of widespread radiation deaths, which misunderstand the limited but real radiation effects of early bombs. No primary source. Documents, whistleblowers, or physical evidence credibly supports idea. Well, my point was, if Dex, you made a point that everybody in Nevada saw these mushroom clouds, right? But I'm thinking, how do we know about that? How did Dex know about the mushroom clouds in Nevada that everybody saw? And it comes from media. It was reported by the media. I look at how much the media lies now, and I look back then, and I guess I'm open-minded about any case. Like if somebody's going to argue anything, I'm open-minded to go down that route, right? What do you guys think about it? You made a valid point that this was an airburst, so it dissipated in the air, and that it would go around the planet. It would go in this. It would go in there. I thought it was pretty crazy that it was, livable and safe within like 3-4 months after the event, right? When you hear about other events, anything nuclear, they say it's irradiated and you can't go there for 100 years. Understandably, Dex, you said that's when it goes into the dirt and then the dirt flies up. But I guess, again, couldn't you get, if it's the top layer of dirt, couldn't you wipe that away and then it's not irradiated anymore? That's
the problem. It's the top layer of everything that's covered in radiation that you don't want to walk in there or be around it. So. But yeah, I mean, that's the difference between an air burst and a ground burst, or an underground burst. An underground burst, if it's completely contained underground, then you don't have anything. That's why they do underground nuclear testing. And if this bunker buster could go deep into the mountain and explode without coming out, then yeah, you wouldn't have the radiation. But I think that's the problem. But by the way, when I said that, there were people saying that they should use a tactical nuke to do it, but Trump and the team have said they're not considering using a tactical nuke at all. The real question is, will the GBU-57 achieve the job? And the question that he has, and it may be the reason why he's holding off a little bit and not gung-ho to do it, is he's not sure it's going to make it to the depth it needs to in that mountainous region there, where if this was like dropping into an underground bunker in the sand or just on regular dirt, it might be a little different than going through a hard mountain. And the distance it needs to go is questionable if it's going to get deep enough to make a difference.
Drops Home said the nukes on Japan were not air, or were air, not ground. No, I know. Air bursted. So it destroyed the people and it went. That's why I said, so it would spread around.
Yeah, they used a special fuse to do that.
Yeah. So did you find out what it wasn't an altitude thing, was it?
It is an altitude thing. So they absolutely used, they used two different things. They had a barometric detector on it for the fuse, which was a backup to the radar detector, is what they were calling it. And it's based on the Archie radar altimeter, which would basically ping the ground off of the bomb as it's dropping and measure the distance. And that actually wasn't new technology that was developed just for that. It was actually developed earlier in World War II for, what do you call them? The air, anti-air munitions. You know how they would shoot up to the planes and then they would explode, and they would always explode in the right area around the plane. It was the same technology. There were little micro radios on those bombs they were shooting up as anti-aircraft, and the radio waves would emit. And as it got close to sensing an airplane based off the bouncing of the radio waves, then that would explode. And that's how the anti-aircraft worked. So they used that same technology to turn it around and measure the ground.
Yeah.
And
so
they did one at 1600, or one of them, the first one, I can't remember. One of them went off a little early, but it was still within the effective range. And the second one went off a little closer to the ground, but still in the effective range.
Yeah. So it was a couple hours ago. We had to look up all this stuff because we were in back and forth. And again, what people aren't understanding is I'm not arguing for one side or the other. I am making a point. So somebody says, correct, live witnesses, sailor spirit. But how are you hearing? My point is the whole way that we look at the world. If 25 years ago you said that the moon landing was faked, 95% people would say, what are you talking about? I would think 98% of people. There were always people that thought it was faked, right? But now, if you ask, I bet if we did a survey on it, most people would think, yeah, it's weird. The computer in the lunar lander was, now if you open up a birthday card that sings happy birthday, that little chip in that birthday card that folds open that's $5 at the grocery store, that is the same computing power that they had in the lunar lander. Yet we stopped going to the moon. We had all these things. And they have a reason for everything about the lunar lander and everything else. The argument, which I thought was more believable than just nukes are fake, is that they didn't have it that early. That in the time of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that they just did massive explosions, that they did ammonium nitrate and they released radiation to do this. I still don't believe it, but I do believe that there is a debate there about how people say no, because so many people saw it. Well, first of all, the people within range, how are you hearing about that? With that, that's a huge event. But with something like that, under that same logic, wouldn't it be the Phoenix Lights? Thousands and thousands of reports went into the UFO thing. The mayor, the sheriffs, the police department, everybody saw this mile-wide object floating above them. Under the same logic as people saw a mushroom cloud, 60, 70 miles away, under that same logic, then if that makes it real, then the Phoenix Lights would be verified and real, right? And tons of media covered the Phoenix Lights. So then you go, media covered it, many people saw it, but still people debate if it was real or even verifiable anymore. My point is that history, again, can be, they can lie. Look at how much they've lied over the last 10 years. Do people think that they just invented lying in the media? No. And if there was an arms race with Russia going back then, that maybe the first couple, maybe they didn't have time. Maybe they could have faked something like that with something like that. The reason why they say that they said that they could have done that big of a mushroom cloud. Nobody's saying that you can't make a mushroom cloud with TNT. They said it would have taken thousands of tons of TNT, and it just doesn't make sense because it would be almost impossible to covertly get that much TNT in there. But again, if there was thousands of tons of TNT, over time, they probably could sneak it in, right? Or ammonium nitrate or some sort of other thing that would make a mushroom cloud. Priscilla F. says, I saw a fireworks plant blow up in Wisconsin years ago. It created a mushroom cloud also. Just seeing a mushroom cloud doesn't say that it's nuclear. That's all I'm saying. I do believe in nukes, and I've always thought it was silly that people said nuke. And also, there's a lot of people that believe that back then, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that those were faked to win an arms race and to scare Japan. Again, Japan was on their last legs too because of the oil embargo and everything else. But at the same time, to scare Japan, at the same time, now they have created fission and the hydrogen bomb and all of these things. And a lot of the people, they believe that those were fake, but over the next 10, 15 years, they stole people from World War II, like Werner von Braun and all these people, and they really did create all of this stuff, along with Albert Einstein's math and the Manhattan Project and everything else. There's tons of documentation for the Manhattan Project. Dex, go ahead.
Hey, just as much as media can make a story, and the past, if you weren't there yourself to witness it, you can always question if it was true. I mean, that holds the media can also undo a story too. And, there was a time when a lot of people on this earth believed in Jesus and everything he did, but we weren't there. We didn't see it. All it is written down in media, and we have to have our faith to believe in it. But it's very much so that we see the media turn the population around and unwrite that. And you'll see a lot of people now don't believe it, just like
people are
may
split.
not believe the moon landing, right? So
or the shape of the planet.
And it can happen. And the media isn't the mainstream; it's any media. It's the fact that information gets shared, disseminated, and it then comes down to what are your beliefs and do you want to believe that or not? And that's what it really comes down to. Because at the end of the day, you ultimately won't know everything until it's all over. and you just got to have faith.
My point is when somebody is so confident, says this is why, this is why, this is why. Of course it's real. When they are 1,000% sure of something that happened before their lifetime, all I'm saying is you can question anything and everything, and that's just as much as I can prove something else that I saw in person as well, or that 1,000 people saw this and 5 newspapers covered it. That no longer can verify it beyond a shadow of a doubt, because now look at the media. The secret is out. The media has lied. Propaganda is real. Paperclip, all of these things, Mockingbird, all of these things are real. As far as there's just a plethora of evidence that there were so many lies told to win rather than to actually, to get the technologies back then. That I'm not one to believe that. I'm more of the one who's arguing that there's an argument there because everything that people quote, that's like somebody quoting through CV through the last 5 years saying, oh, look at these studies. Well, who the hell paid for the studies? That's like somebody arguing, oh, yeah, well, you should do this. And 80% of people and people that cover are not going to do this. And I mean, they told us, oh, if you get this, you're not going to get hurt, or you won't get it. 2 months later, oh, you will get it, and actually you're more likely to spread it. And it's like all these stupid things. Like, we were told a million different things, and every 2 months they can tell us something different.
Headlines. That's because we listen to headlines. That's because the rest of all of the people in the world listen to a headline and read the first sentence, and that's about it. The study is there. If a study comes out and it says something, the entire information of the study is published. If you actually read it, you can find out if it's full of crap or not. You can actually find out the same information that finally comes out 6 months later.
No, that's not true.
Unless it was hidden, in which case it's not a study. Okay. But the scientific method of taking information and proving it, running a case study against it, publishing the information, having it peer reviewed, and making it public knowledge of what it is, means you have to read it all. If you choose not to read it, it's sort of like the bill getting passed in Congress. If you don't read the 45,000 pages of crap in there, then you can't really complain about it when you signed off on it. And you find out later you signed off on something you don't like. And that's what happens. It happens all the time.
Well, and
I think it happens to us as citizens all the time because we don't have the time to do it and we don't invest the time.
Dex, in that logic, the studies I'm talking about, they purposely left out parts of the study. They did it under certain conditions, and it was peer reviewed. We're talking about the studies about the thing working that didn't actually work.
I get it, but I guess what I'm saying is you can't just because one study or 2 studies or 10 or 100 are bad, you can't say that a million are bad, right? Just because they've lied in the media, you can't say that every media report is a lie. And I'm not saying you're saying that, but we take things at face value. We take things at a headline only and we move on. Well, and that's why Drudge was so popular back in the day and probably still is to some extent, because it's literally just headlines. That's all people wanted to read was a headline. Like they read a headline and they believe it, move on.
Well, and again, that's something like when you look at all of this stuff, it's like with that, people have to understand that you still can argue and you can still question everything. It's the way that we now look at what people say now. They say, do your research. Or they say, oh, well, I've got, what are your sources? How often do you hear that? When you're telling somebody something, they go, well, what are your sources for that? How many times do you see that in comments? Well, so what's your source? Trust me, bro? But even if they give you a source, then they can go, well, my source says your source is wrong. It's a war of sources. It's a sorceress war. There's a bunch of sorceresses. Do you see my point? There's never going to be a right and wrong anymore because now we are living in idiocracy where there is no... how can you debate when the entire system that we used to call fact and fiction is put into play? You have fact checkers that are calling opinions facts. You have fact checkers that are... a million of us can watch the president say, for flopperty-dups. Well, no, because the context he said it in, that's actually false. He didn't say flubs. He said, I'm going to take my wife to Camp David. And they'll say, because he was talking about Camp David 10 minutes before and 10 minutes after, the context actually means that he said, I'm taking my wife to Camp David. But what we all heard and saw is, that actually happened. Do you remember that, Dex, when JB said something that was like, he mispronounced something completely off, and then people made fun of him for it? And the fact checkers literally said, he didn't say it wrong. They used his intention. What he intended to say.
We did the same thing to the Secretary of the Army when we made fun or poked out or even questioned him saying he spoke to an astronaut on the moon when he literally spoke to an astronaut on the International Space Station. So the intent was he spoke to an astronaut on the International Space Station because he actually said he did 10 minutes before, but then he said it the wrong way. He said the moon. So yeah, I mean, we do that. We've covered that. And it happens, and people do misspeak, and sometimes people don't misspeak, and fact checkers do say the wrong thing because they're human, right? They want to believe what they want to believe, and they want to put their spin on it because they're human. Bro. And so you gotta take everything, like we say in the beginning of the show, with a grain of salt. And you do have to do your own research. You do have to look for sources if it's important to you. If it's not important to you, then move on. But if it's something that really is meaningful to you, then yeah, do your research. But don't. I would say never take one side of research. Like if you want to look into the shape of the globe, or the Earth, make sure you spend as much time on one side as you do the other. Make sure you look at the argument on both sides in as much detail as the other. Because if you just stick to one side, then you're going to be in an echo chamber. You're just going to end up, only getting that, and you'll end up maybe being right or maybe being wrong. But you got a 50-50 chance of being wrong.
And again, with that or anything else, that's what I'm saying. You have to look at both sides, and you do have to look at both sides, though, which means that you can't. That's another big part of my point. Is don't argue that it absolutely can't be true, and that using the history of this, and this proves it, without looking at the counter argument first. People don't look at the counter argument anymore. If you can't disprove that in a debate, you'll end up losing. So you have to look at the other side, and then each one categorically go through and go, that can't be, this can, that can. When somebody says, hey, there's no, it wasn't irradiated 4 months later. Well, it was an airburst. It happened 6,000 feet up in the air, and it blew up everybody. It turned them into dust, but it was only a small percentage. It was a highly populated area. It just completely annihilated them. With the shape of everything, again, I know that there's people in here that are never going to see eye to eye. The point is not to see eye to eye. It is to try. And to also understand that you're not going to see eye to eye with everybody. We can make a little step closer to that every single day. If you disagree with me and you're 1,000% on the opposite side, then do some self-work and go, how can I get past that? How could I still be friends with somebody I disagree with? Because the planet needs to do that. We've been trained and brainwashed and had propaganda up our backsides for so many years that it's purposefully dividing us. It's teaching us a way of living where if we disagree with somebody, we hate them. That's not how life works. There's 10 trillion gazillion things to either agree and disagree on. If you had to agree with everything somebody had, then that would be yourself. Do you want to walk around and look in a mirror and every person is a drone copy of you? We're not robots. We're just not. We're not AI. We're not in a collective hive. Some could argue we are, but again, I would look at both sides of the argument. All right, stealth mode. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for, again, popping in. Thank you for our mods, Bobby Sue. Again, thank you, Saren. Thank you for subscribing. Carlton Sutton, the algorithms are frustrating, separating people. Exactly. You're only going to see what they want, they know you want to see, and it's an echo chamber. It's another day in paradise. Seeking truth. Hey, thank you for 11 months. Appreciate that. That's the other thing is people, even the smartest people, don't realize that they are in an echo chamber, and they don't realize that they are only being shown things that they agree with. Because if you disagree with something, especially now, you hate it and you're going to turn it off. If you're watching TV and every channel you disagree with and go, F that, yeah, you might argue with it for a second, but you're not going to sit there and watch for 10 hours. That's torture. If you have a show that you agree and you're like, yeah, right on. Do you hear this guy? This is great. You're going to watch it for 5-10 hours. You disagree with it, you're going to turn it off. I mean, how many people watch a YouTube channel? They disagree once and they never watch it again. It's kind of dumb, right? But again, the algorithm feeds you more and more of what you like and what you'll agree with, and what they know will just go smoothly into your brain. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, we're some might think we're programmed to be more binary, where it's easy for us to move right or left, black or white, good versus evil, and it's always, one or the other. It's always split decision. And I think what you got to do is make sure that you're willing to go gray, right? If you go gray, you can actually work your way through from black to white. You can work your way through from dark to day, right? And you can see a bigger, broader picture. And that's something that most people, it's easier to just live in a binary world. It's either on or off. It's either day or night. It's, and if you can get yourself into the thinking beyond that, the world will be a better place if we all could be more gray than being stuck in the, on one end or the other.
If it's binary, it's scary. It's gay to go gray, right? I'll work on it, guys. I promise I'll work on it. And then SpaceX rocket explodes in new setback, and they're not calling it a slight anomaly. They are calling it a catastrophe, a catastrophic failure, and exploded. This is Starship 36. This is part of the mission to Mars. This is part of, again, what some of our audience disagrees that this will ever happen, right? They essentially, this is part of the Starship program. This is the massive, massive ships that are supposed to be taking 1 million people up there by 2029 and be turning the moon or the Mars into Earth, right? To terraform Mars. But they are having problem after problem after problem. The Starship explosion occurred during a routine static fire test, according to Cameron County authorities. Again, at 123 meters high or 403 feet, Starship is the world's largest and most powerful rocket and central to Musk's long-term vision for colonizing Mars. That's crazy. 400 feet. That's a skyscraper. I mean, all rockets are really big, but that's just massive. And then the width, the actual size of these things. Dex, you've been to Florida multiple times. Have you ever seen a Starship in person?
No, those are Starships are only in Texas.
That's right.
Yeah, they're at Boca Chica, and no, I've not seen those, but I have seen the was it the Falcon, whatever the other, the regular Starship. I didn't see it land. I saw the one that took off for the
Falcon 9 or whatever.
Yeah, it's one of those. It went to it was the Solar Observer. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It begins with a P or something. But the Solar Observer, the one that went to the sun and back and was like getting really close to the sun. I got to see that one launch from Cape Canaveral in Florida.
Yeah. Cool. I would like to see just any of those big launches at least once. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really impressive to see. I mean, it'd be even more impressive to see the whole chopsticks with the, them catch it like they do with the Starship, but that's in Texas, down by the border.
Gosh, I always thought that was in Florida. I know a lot goes down right there. And then before we talk about Kameni can no longer be permitted to exist, I do want to remind you guys, make sure to go over and check out Jace. This is an incredible service. It's very easy. You're going to talk to a board-certified doctor via your telephone. Of course, your telephone. We're going back to the 50s. Make sure to wrap the cord around your finger and then the other finger wrapping around your hair and go, "Hi, Susie. You're on the party line too?" Anyways, get on your cell phone, your tablet, or your computer, and you can get a quick appointment with a real doctor, a board-certified one, and get a kit of all of the most commonly prescribed antibiotics. Now, this is incredibly important for any prepper because, again, if you are a prepper, then you understand the possibility of the hospital not being there, the hospital being shut down, you not being able to get to the hospital or to the ER or to the pharmacy. The pharmacies might be gone or looted. And if you are in a situation where a simple antibiotic could solve it, otherwise you end up, 6 feet under because of a cut on your toe, that's pretty stupid. Again, marfugglenews.com/Jace. Make sure to use the code MARF. Also, keep in mind, if we go to war with China, which is one of the most probable things right now, in my opinion, they are making 90% of all of the antibiotics and 97% of all of the active pharmaceutical ingredients. Why we don't make them here, why we're depending on an enemy for something so important, I don't know. Go to marfugglenews.com/Jace. Make sure to use the code MARF, MARF, to get a savings and to help our independent channel at the same time. And then Khamenei can no longer be permitted to exist following Iranian strike on the civilian hospital. I mean, were you on X at all? Did you see all of the I've never seen so many spaces. The spaces are these audio rooms where people can go on and have people come up and speak and turn their mics on, and they can usually, I think, 12 or 20 people they can have up on stage and talk about this. I have never seen so many spaces all dedicated within 10 minutes of this thing, all saying that this was fantastic Freddie land, right? That this was somehow put right there to make sure that they could cement the public eye or cement the prime ministers or the Senate or the Congress into going, hey, we need to take this guy out. Dex, mind you, they said, we know where this guy is. So this is kind of like a call directly to us after this hospital to take this guy out. If we do take this guy out, what have they said the consequences would be? We covered that too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal if you take the lead out. A regime change would be significant in Iran. There's a decent chunk of the population there that isn't really happy with the current government or the way the government is run. Like even looking at Pezeshkian getting put into power, that was sort of a sign of the times because he was very much a different type of leader. He was more, in favor of the citizens as opposed to the Ayatollah, but the Ayatollah ultimately still has full control, right? So it doesn't really matter what the president is and does. But it was sort of a sign of that resistance that is still there or has been growing, especially in the young people in Iran. And that's a known issue that's been going on for quite some time. So regime change could actually happen fairly easily if they were to do something like take them out. It doesn't seem like it would necessarily be obvious that the next Ayatollah would just step right in. It seems like it would be ripe for more of a democratic process to run through the country again. And it probably wouldn't be the former monarchy because he wasn't even the king at the time. He was like the son of the son. But he's the talking point right now, at least to talk about the difference there. I know a lot of people think, oh, they're trying to put him back into power. And that's not necessarily the right solution, nor do I think the West would even look at that. They would look more for, a parliamentary and democratic style government as opposed to a monarchy or a dictator style. Which
I think he's the choice. I think the son of the Shah, I think that he is their puppet. I think that he'll be put in because they haven't lined anybody else up.
I think he's a talking piece. I don't think they'd put him in. I think they would have, somebody. They would have a selection process, and they would do it if they have regime change. That's my opinion. My
intuition says the late Shah's son is supposed to invoke before the Islamic Revolution, that this guy is from before. He's got family blood because they also look at that too. Like
there's a guy before him too. He overthrew one guy.
But is he alive? Is he alive?
But his family members are alive. This guy was never in charge, so he's a family member, right? I mean, that's the only reason they're calling him because he's got a title, and the title sounds good, and it plays.
Well, he was
well
in the palace. He was there when everything went down.
He was a child, yeah.
Well, he was. I think he was 19 years old.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, the thing is, the way that here's my opinion on that is it is how they're setting him up in the media. And I'm assuming that this is an op and that if they are planning a regime change, which I think they are, that they slowly line up and then he'll be on CNN and then he'll be wearing a blazer in an interview. And then all of a sudden he'll be the puppet. He'll be the guy. Or maybe they ran by it. Maybe they had him publicly speak to see the reaction from people and to see how he, his survey was, did people like the guy? Are people open to the idea of this guy running? Did people openly suggest, hey, why don't we put him in charge?
So running, yes, I can see it in the sense of, would he be a selected person? And I'm using the S in front of that word, and I mean the other word, but I don't think they would put him in because he's monarchy and put a monarchy back in charge, right? I think they would say, oh, let him run, and that's what you just said. You said run. I agree with you. He could run, and if the people chose him, then that would be different, and he would run a term, and then they would do it again, right? I really think it would be a democratic process if they're going to go through a regime change. If they go through it enough that there's enough control and power from the West to overthrow the government of Iran, then they're not going to put in a monarchy or a dictator. They'll put in a controlled puppet state that looks like some sort of republic where there is the facade of democracy, right? That's what will be there. And to the extent, and I'm jokingly saying that because I look to Ukraine and say, look at that king who is, or that person who is, holding his power forever because, he doesn't want to have a selection process to
Dex,
boot him out.
Specifically,
but that is still not a monarchy. It's still not a dictatorship. It is a democracy. But
specifically, the U.S. helped Iran, they helped restore a monarchy in Iran in 1953. So what would stop them from doing it again?
Because we haven't done monarchies in a long time. Back in the 50s, it made sense. And now it doesn't.
I don't know. As long as it's a puppet.
So you're saying monarchy. I'm saying democracy.
Yeah, because
saying the guy.
No, because you think that it wouldn't make sense to put a monarchy into place. But if it's a puppet monarchy, then it would allow them to still have their culture and their way of life.
No, but the public there doesn't want that. The public wants democracy, and they'll have
when does the public ever get their way?
I know, but if you want to control the public, make them feel like they have what they want, which is a democracy. Because you can control the democracy the same way you can control a monarchy. But why would you do a monarchy? We don't even do it in England anymore. We don't do it anywhere anymore.
Yeah, but this is a Muslim country. I mean, it's a lot different. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. Time will tell.
If the West is involved, I don't think it'll be. If another Middle Eastern country is involved and they take power and control to change it out, then certainly it could be something totally different. And if China or Russia are involved, it could be something totally different. But I think if the West was involved, it'll be democracy. That's just my opinion. I mean, I could be whatever. Could still be the guy, but who knows?
Yeah, no, I agree with you that it doesn't make too much sense as far as putting that kind of system in, but I think that if they did it, they're not going to do it publicly. And here's my argument for it is if they restore a monarchy, it makes it look like we're not actually restoring the monarchy. It'll come out later in CIA documents, but it will look like it's happening naturally on its own, when really it's us regime changing, putting a monarchy in. If we do a democracy over there, then it will obviously be something where the whole world knows the U.S. took this regime out and then helped them, have people run for the position and all of that. But I think that they're going to take it where they take the regime out and then they're going to pretend like they're allowing it to happen on their own. All those CIA planes that went in there, the 72 planes and the CIA agents with probably briefcases of money, they're probably setting something up like that already. That's just my opinion. But time will tell, and I really wonder what the heck is going to happen with this, because it will change the world, and it will affect all of us depending on how this goes. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think it will be the Shah? Do you think they're setting him up to be a monarch ruler? Or are they having his history and will they have him run to be a leader and then the U.S. kind of gives him a nudge? Or do you think that they are going to restore it into a democracy and help them run, I don't know, a Dominion ran thing? I don't know. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, Smedley Butler in chat said the son was interviewed and stated that he would not return to run Iran. I haven't seen that interview. I don't know if that's true or not, but
Trump said he would
somebody
never
in
be
chat.
president. 3 times.
But yeah, he said they asked him that if he was trying to return, and he said no. That's I'd have to go look that one up. That'd be interesting to see. It doesn't mean it's true. Like you said, he could say one thing and do something different.
Firefrost says it will be a fake democracy. That very well could be too. Well, I mean,
Yeah, that's
look
what I
at
was
Ukraine. Ukraine.
Exactly.
There's evidence in 2014 that, I mean, it's like they handpicked. Which, I mean, it's so crazy that there's evidence that it was picked, and then you look at who was picked, and you're like, this guy that literally acted in a show that played a regular guy going to be the president, and then he ended up being a regular guy turning into the president. I mean, I guess I wouldn't be surprised by anything at this point. All right, you guys, Bubba One, The Highway, nice to see you. Bubba One, it's been a long time. Rashid Thadcraft, Michael Everson, Life is Better on Stilts, says, I have no clue anymore. I know, it's crazy. More of a mafia ogressy. Nice. And then America is a Corporation, Lizard Hunter, I agree with that. Itchiander, Randy Man, Darla Dean, Beware the Direct Democracy. Mainstream will say it's legit, then we can see all the truth. Hippie Chick, 100% Adam. Peppermint, I can't wait for the jams. Oh, thank you. Hail to the King says they want to hit Iran in 2 weeks on July 4th. Oh, is that, Dex, does that line up? Is 2 weeks July 4th? That's kind of freaky. Yeah, I don't think so. And every time that there's a big date and people think that something's going to happen, it never does. And I
think it would be the 3rd if it was yesterday's date.
Well, I mean, anytime
today.
people, and I bet you July 1st through the 3rd, I bet there'll probably be some of my peers that will say, beware, 4th of July, be careful. And there might be rumors. There always is. And then it never is. The thing is, I like that what on the Sean Ryan show, the one thing I did agree with that woman that said that there would be these attacks is the fact that we always think about it in terms, like if there's a big event, we always think of it in terms of our holidays or the dates that mean something to us. That opened my mind when they essentially said, it's usually the dates that mean something to them. The 7th or any of these big dates, usually it's something that means something in their culture, in their country, in their history, not in ours. People always look at it like, 9/11 or this or that or any of these, that it's to ruin a day for us. Like 4th of July will be ruined forever. It will be a tragic day. That's true. They could do that. But more likely and more often they use, freaking May 3rd or something, and it means nothing to us, but it means something to them because in their history they lost their country that day, or it's something that means more to them, that they can forever for the rest of their days, go over that date because it has more significance to them. I believe that is actually accurate. That's more often what happens. Thank you, Nacho Man, Randy Sandwich. I really hope, Adam, I'm misunderstanding you about Iranians believing that they are getting a democracy installed. Wait, I really hope, Adam, I'm misunderstanding you about Iranians believing that they are getting a democracy installed. No, I actually believe that they are getting a monarchy installed. I think they're getting a monarchy installed. I think that the late Shah is going to be put in place. Dex believes if the U.S. is involved, that it will most likely be a democracy or a fake democracy. Dex, go ahead.
Well, the other thing I was just thinking more about, like how they're configured. They're a republic, just like the U.S. I know everybody likes to talk about the U.S. being a republic, but which means they have selection processes. They have a president, a parliament, local councils, and they have a political structure. The only difference is that they have a supreme leader who is a theocratic influence and has absolute control over everything, right? So it like if they were to remove that one thing, they could continue as a republic and operate with their selection process of presidents, parliaments, local councils, etc. Doesn't mean it won't be fake. Doesn't mean it won't be something else. But if you take out the theocratic, basically the religion that is the dominant. It kind of reminds me back of the old days when you look at the old, England and Russia and places where they had such a strong influence with the religion telling the kings and queens what to do, right? It's very much that, right? That's the theocratic portion of their government. If you were to rip that out, they could potentially just keep going.
No, yeah, you're right. It very well could go that way. Ryan Alter says the Shaw family was and will remain toast. The only thing is, the thing we can't predict is how administrations are going to do it, how CIA is going to do it, how the playbook is going to go. If it's a very obvious thing, it might not happen. And then Captain Apana, you don't get it? Okay, so that was I thought that was pretty good. Dex, listen to this. Rashid said, sadly, the man who invented autocorrect has passed away. Restaurant in peace. I'm sorry. I thought that was pretty good. Restaurant in peace.
Well, yeah. Rest in peace, because he changes my name to sex all the time in chat. So
I've said it plenty of times to family members. I'm like, oh, I gotta call sex, or oh man, so many times. I turned off autocorrect altogether, and now I just send things that are just horrible, like dot, period, this, that, and it's better than what it just autofills. But yeah. All right, you guys, have a great night. Be safe, be prepared. Thank you, everybody that made it in tonight. Again, lots of really awesome people came in tonight. Thank you, Nacho Man, Randy Sandwich. I appreciate that. Thank you, Ilea. You guys, I believe, are tied for number 1 spot. Seeking Truth. Thank you, Carlton Sutton. Ralph Friedens Bufferwater. I think I said that right. Thank you. And somebody said T9 is so much better. I think, Dex, what was T9? Is that before autocorrect?
Or no, it was how you texted with the 10 digits.
ABC,
like,
DEF.
ABC, yeah. T9.
Oh, that's funny.
That was crazy days.
I know you know somebody. My friend's cousin was so fast. She was faster than me back when I had the full keyboard on, like, whatever phone that had with the flip up screen way back when texting first started. I forget what the hell they called that. It had full keyboard and the screen that covered the keyboard and flipped up. She was so fast at ABC, DDD, and she would go, and she knew it. She memorized like 224, 556, 777, 555. Did you know anybody that was so fast at T9?
Yeah, it was never me though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just the dyslexia kicks in, and I'm just like, all right, give me a keyboard, damn it.
Yeah, I would be like, hey. And then they would send you a whole letter, and you would still be like, I agree. Oh, and then they would say something you don't agree, and you're like, dang it.
And I would appreciate the pager days when you could just use a couple of numbers, and you just know what those numbers meant with your friends, right? Like,
yeah.
Call me or meet me here, or emergency, whatever, right? Like, it was so much simpler.
Israel friend would always send 187.
Yeah. Or 6006 or something like that was like boob, or
yeah, exactly.
Being crass and funny as young kids.
Yep. And then 411 or 911.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. And who else had a see-through pager? One that you could see the electronics inside and thought it was cool, and had the clip, so it was always on your belt. Doris the Dorkosaurus is what they called us. All right, you guys.
I had the 100-foot phone cord, so you could take the phone from the kitchen to your bedroom for some privacy.
Okay, who else had lip phones? My daughter just found at a garage sale the lip phones, the lip regular phone, and she's so excited to use it. And I'm like, we don't have a phone line. Isn't that funny? She's like, where can I put this in? I said, what do you mean? She's like, how do I use this? And I'm like, you need a phone line. She's like, okay, where is it? And I'm like, we don't have one.
You have to get her a VoIP line. Tell her it's $30 a month.
Dude, when oh no, that was so funny. I'm not going to talk about her at the gas station. But yeah, kids, man, they don't know like where the gas goes or what phones are.
My daughter was at her grandmother's house a long time ago. My daughter, when she was younger, was at her grandmother's house, and the grandmother still had the rotary dial phone. And honest to God, I think she was still paying rent on it to the phone company. Back in the day when you could pay like, $10 a month to rent your phone, she was still paying the rent on it. But my daughter is like pushing her fingers in the circles trying to dial. She says, it doesn't work. And I'm like, sweetie, you got to spin the wheel. She goes, what do you mean? Yeah, it was funny. It was so funny.
The buttons are stuck. Oh, what? Just hilarious. All right, you guys, have a good night. Be safe, be prepared. Marf out. Dex, thank you so much for your service today. I appreciate you.
Oh, much love, brother. Great job.
All right, you guys, be safe, be prepared. Marf out. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a showtro.
I said I wonder, the flag above you, is it the same